Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And on this one, I want to have a quick review of the hate crime laws that have been introduced on Monday. And particularly Humza's big massive U-turn 3 days in. I'll talk about some other things at the end of this, but this bit is the one that's caught my attention the most from the reaction so far of the introduction of the hate crime laws. And just previous, I think it was over the weekend, Humza was interviewed and he was asked about the Murdo Fraser situation. For those who are unaware, Murdo Fraser some time ago was subject to, under existing laws at the time, a hate crime complaint where he had shared a tweet of someone else. And although the police looked at it, decided Murdo Fraser wasn't even worth investigating, past having a look at the claim. They didn't contact Murdo Fraser. He wasn't aware of any report or complaint about him. He found out by almost accident and by default, a few months later, that he was indeed on a register. And he has started taking the Scottish Police to task on the fact that he's on this register for what is registered is called a non-crime hate list, right? Which is like a contradiction in terms. However, so it came to pass, and people weren't aware of this thing that the police were doing. Even people like Thomas Ross KC, who interviewed and spoke about it, and with 40 years criminal defence experience behind him, he was unaware that such a register exists. He was aware, however, that such a register existed in England, in Wales, because the police down there were taken to task on it. And there was current moves in England questioning why the police were doing this and the legality of the police in doing so. But the Scottish police were obviously unaware, because the suggestion was made that anybody who was subject to a complaint under the new legislation would have their names recorded. So that's what he was asked about. He was asked his opinion on Murdo Fraser being registered on this list. And the First Minister declared at the interview over the weekend that it was a fantastic thing having this information, because, in his words, it would show spikes in hate which we as society could use to tackle hate. Now, that's not true. All it was recording was the complaints of hate crime, because Murdo Fraser was not breaking the law or any hate crime laws. It was just a complaint against him. So if you're registering that and counting that data, that isn't counting hate crime. That's counting hate crime reports and complaints, which are two totally separate things. And then what happened after the hate bill became live, in the first few days, there was approximately 4,000 complaints of hate crime, most of which were for two people. Humza Yousaf, because of his speech he had in Parliament, where he used the white word quite a lot and people felt that was worth reporting, and I think there was like 1,000 reports for him, right? And the second person to get a load of complaints was J.K. Rowling, because of her opinions, which she's quite public about, regarding transgender issues. So out of these 4,000 complaints, the majority of them were for two people, Humza Yousaf and J.K. Rowling. Both, the police determined, were not criminal offences, but they came out, I think it was Tuesday, and declared that neither Humza Yousaf nor J.K. Rowling would have their data registered on this list that previously Murdo Fraser had been registered to, when all he had was the same as Humza and the same as J.K. Rowling, and that was a scurrilous complaint with no foundation. I thought this was pretty bizarre, and I thought, well, that's quite a turnaround from what we were all expecting after the Murdo Fraser incident becoming public knowledge just prior to the hate bill laws becoming live. So, I mean, I think it's quite a refreshing viewpoint. So today, Humza has been asked, this is the same guy that 4 or 5 days previously told us that these were great things to have, is now doing a bit of backtracking. And he declares today that it's for the police to determine. And they are making a decision based on changes to the law in England and Wales, which is the exact thing that Thomas Ross and I had discussed on our podcast. So, Thomas Ross was well aware of this, the challenge to the law in England and Wales. Police Scotland didn't seem to be, because, you know, they were cracking on and sticking Murdo Fraser on this list. The First Minister, ex-Justice Minister, was obviously completely unaware of this when he was asked about it at the weekend, because he felt it was a great thing. Now, all of a sudden, we're not recording these things. And I think that's, you know, the sensible thing to do. But I find it bizarre that we only find out after complaints by or towards Humza Yousaf that we're not going to record them. I hope that the decision by the police was made because they have now considered what's happened in England and Wales, where they appear to be stopping to stick people who have not committed any crime being recorded on a non-crime hate register. So fears that I had seem to already have been dispelled, that, you know, these, and I don't know, if nobody's told us that the police will be recording no scurrilous or contemptuous reporting of hate crime, which isn't, you know, anything other than somebody's opinion, where the police look at it and think that ain't criminal. We don't know at this point if this is across the board. But people, I mean, I might have had a complaint against me. I don't know. Police haven't contacted me since Monday over anything that I've said or done. So, but somebody might have made a complaint. The police have looked at it and decided on just looking at the evidence in front of them, they don't need to talk to me because it's evidently there's no crime being committed. So I may have been subject to a complaint. I don't know. I'm not aware of any. And therefore, I don't know if I am or I'm not on any of these registered. But I would hope that the police would clarify the situation pretty damn quick. That if anybody that's been reported on the new legislation, if we are all to be given the same consideration as J.K. Rowling and the First Minister, where they can confirm that nobody will be on a register unless there's criminality involved. And in that way, I can imagine the data being recorded is quite a good thing, because we can then identify what Humza claimed at the weekend. We can then identify if there are spikes or not for any types of hate crime and the categories of the hate crime, but only for those that are actually crimes, not just spikes in, we've seen, and it was inevitable that we were going to see massive spikes in police complaints when this new law was brought in and went live. I mean, anybody with a modicum of common sense could have guessed that Humza Yousaf and J.K. Rowling would be the two most reported people from Monday or Sunday midnight onwards when the law came in. But I would love the police to confirm that nobody who has been reported since the advent of the new laws, and nobody going forward with the new laws who has merely been the subject of a complaint, will have their names recorded on a non-crime list. So it's been fun watching the reaction to the laws, and I would love to know of anybody that has been arrested, charged and facing court since the laws came in, because we don't seem to have been, I haven't been made aware of anybody who has came by this law. And this is going to fall into line, as Thomas Ross, KC and myself discussed on our previous podcast, where it will probably have no extra arrests and charges and turning into convictions than we had before, and very similar result to the also ill thought out Offensive Behaviour at Football Act. But what I will say is we probably will see for the foreseeable future a dulling down of debate, as people like Thomas Ross KC already stated on that podcast that I keep referring to, that he, even someone who's totally aware of the law, does not get drawn into certain debates about certain subjects because it's just not worth it. And that dumbs down debate. And that does dumb down free speech, regardless of what happens with complaints. People just don't want to be complained about, so they'll stop talking about certain subjects. And that ain't healthy. That ain't healthy for a democratic society or debate. Okay? So if you liked the video, give us a thumbs up. Hit the comments. Always like them. They're good for a bit of chat in the comments section. And subscribe if you've not already done so. But as I always say at the end of my videos, unless you're Humza, the people that brought in these laws, or the cult that's left supporting the SNP, have a great day. Cheery bye now.